think that's fine. I think that's fine. Yes, slim thing. Hello. God bless you. Thanks for watching. Is the window open? Lord, is it? Let me just push that. There we go. Ouch, it hurt. How you doing? Now I want to tell you happy independence. Well, or at least if you are a Jamaican, I want to say I hope you enjoyed. Anyways, everybody's welcome here. Lord, I want to ask that you filter my words, you know, so that I don't say anything inappropriate, and that love can just be the center of this whole conversation. At the same time, I am gonna focus on independence, emancipation. So yeah, now Jamaica became independent on the 6th of August, and so we celebrated our 61st anniversary yesterday, and it was awesome. Just kind of reveling in that in a way. You know, I was watching the Grand Gala. We decided to put on something to watch for independence, went onto YouTube and came across Grand Gala. Now, if you're not really familiar with what that is, it's just kind of a big event that the island hosts, which is usually free, you know, and they keep it at the stadium, the National Stadium, which is an attraction on the island. There's a cool fun fact about how many light bulbs are in each of the stands. How much is 100? If that was a school's challenge quiz question, lol. But yeah, not school's challenge because we passed that, and well, we always learning. Anyways, I don't want to digress too much. It was very celebratory, you know. They had light shows, fireworks, singing, dancing, acting. They brought out noblemen, noble women. The members of parliament were there. Like, you know, it was hosted by the Ministry of Culture. So it's culture and a bag of other things, like, but I'll just focus on that for now. Culture, entertainment. This is the Honorable Babsy, so there's that. I want to say that, you know, overall it was a joy to watch the Grand Gala. So I watched the 60th, and then sometime into the evening they dropped the 61st onto YouTube as well. So we shimmied on over to that side and watched it to partake in, and it was kind of live. I don't know if it was right on time with everything going on. I would imagine so, girl. But it seemed like it was like it's the same day, and around 11 o'clock it done, and I'd imagine that's about the time the people them did lock off stadium lights. So yeah, literally sing along with everybody and dance along and see the legends step out, you understand? Now I can rant and rave all day positively about Jamaica. You know, we are blessed. God has truly blessed our country. However, there were some things. They had the Dr. Bird in the light show, and it was just, and in the John Kuno they featured the Dr. Bird. Beautiful. Now, Jamaicans were good at walking on like stilts, and so the Dr. Bird was a character on stilts, and that's what I originally just thought it was before I realized it was part of the John Kuno. And if you don't know what John Kuno is, that's like a very cultural parade of sorts. It features different characters, and ultimately they're to scare people and scare the kids, and but they dance around and they play the drums and them boom 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 and them do them thing, you understand? I was one of them kids that I was nervous when John Kuno came. But literally that's what they're trying to achieve, right? Inducing fear. Which we shouldn't be doing, because God didn't give us a spirit of fear. I'm gonna digress from that one because that's just a lot. Now, what I really want to talk about was from the 60th. There's two things mainly, but from the 60th, there was a short film that they interjected into the Grand Gala, into the event, and it featured a TV personality. Yeah, a famous TV personality. And her character, though, introduced herself with a name that, honestly, she said it so fast, me kind of feel like me catch some of it. And I feel like that's where I may need some kind of clarification on what her character really represents. But it sounded like Amenhotep, and that is an Egyptian deity. Okay, now there's a whole, well, Amenhotep is either Amenhotep is the pharaoh who embodied a deity, or Amenhotep is the deity that an Egyptian pharaoh embodied. Now this pharaoh, look, I'm not Egyptian, all right? So I'm not gonna, yes, I got my cute beauty supply headpiece, but I'm not gonna come and try to act like Cleopatra. I'm really not, okay? I'm not gonna try to act like Nefertiti. I'm not gonna try to act like I know. Was actually, I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna leave it alone. Ultimately, that's what her character sounded like. Something like that her name was. And then the way she was dressed gave the impression that she is some kind of goddess or something. And how the feature film went, literally they were at Clock Tower, which is a popular attraction, like a landmark in the country, and she walks through, so there's no door, it looks like it's warped, the wall of it, and she walks through, another guy walks through, and some passers-by, like 3 civilians, made an observation. Now these civilians had their own story because they were introduced individually, but then they somehow came together to help each other with something. And in them coming together, they look up and they see the people walking in through this portal. Now these 3 individuals observe this happening, follow the man and the woman, and walk through the portal. And so when they go inside, they're in just a small room, and the 2 people are waiting for them, right? And clothes change and everything from the man and the woman that walked in first, but ultimately introduce themselves, and they're saying, you know, and please whoever wrote this story, come correct me, you know, because me as a girl, me take correction. But at the same time, red flag. They're basically telling them, this is what you have to do to help the country to be better. They are deities, and there's always some kind of consequence or catch when you do business with deities, right? Because there's only one God but God. No, I'm not gonna come and try to be holier than thou. However, that is ultimately where I'm going with this. You know, after that mini feature film ended, we were introduced to these characters in real life, on stage, on the field at Emancipation Park, and they had their storyline play out. And you know, there was a scene where, so the 3 individuals that came together, one was a woman who looked like she was going to church, but I heard her utter magic out her mouth, and so she might be a mother woman. If you know, you know. If you don't, is a obia kind of person that disguises themselves as a churchgoer and a worshiper of Jesus Christ and God. The next person was, I thought it was just an uptown girl, but she represents the dolly them, the dolly. So I guess that's a new thing in, I mean, I know that's a new thing in Jamaica because Shen sing about it. Shensia sing about it. And big up yourself, Shensia. Big up yourself, Shen. So she, and there's a group of girls in Jamaica that call themselves the dolly them, and they're fun and they're sweet. I used to follow them back on like my old social media, and so me's a dolly like them too. Basically, we're all dollies, right? It's Barbie season. Come on now. Anyways, I don't wanna get too caught up in that, right? I'm just letting you know the different categories of people. The next one was the ghetto youth. Now, why are we sowing discord? Like, why are we creating a segregation pattern that honestly wasn't really there? Because let's face it, a lot of the country is oppressed. So a lot of the country is poor. We're a third world country, and I'm praying to God that we can elevate and progress with the resources that we're blessed with to be a first world country. You understand? And uplift our people and all of that. But it is what it is, you know. Then you want to separate the dolly them, but dollies can live in the garrison and dollies can be in church. So, and church people can be dolly and church people live in, so it's like, and if people from the garrison, if them know where to shop, if you know where to go downtown and look for the deals them, and not just downtown, right? Sometimes van back, sometimes your friend have a truck, have a van, and she lift up the top and her clothes and slippers outside. Somebody come from foreign and them a run them little solo retail or solo business, right? And they don't have to have a big shop in the plaza to be a dolly and to dress up the people them for be dolly. Or if, as I said, you find the deals to be a dolly. So it's like you put your drawing lines that aren't there. But okay, you're telling a story as well, and I get that. That's the bigger picture. However, as they continued, you know, them do them dances and them thing, it was a vibe. But the first dance was from the ghetto youth them. And women are there too, like in the group, but the ghetto people them do theirs, and I hate calling them that. I really don't like it, but that's what they portrayed to the whole Emancipation Park. So they did their dance and it represented whatever their message. And then the church lady was like, I don't agree with that. You know, prayers and whatever. And okay, great. Hopefully it's to the one God, as I said, and it's not just a mother woman them put up there. But at the same time, if you're really trying to represent a group, do it accurately. Because a true person of God isn't gonna sow discord. They're not gonna look at somebody else coming with a solution and just, I don't agree with that. That's not how it works. The Bible tells us don't condemn every prophecy. If I'm not mistaken, that's in Acts 7 or 27. You weed out the good and you weed out the bad and pull the good. So if somebody comes to you with a solution, your job is to see it as a prophecy and do what I just mentioned. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because then it makes people who follow God and follow Christ and people who go to church, it make them seem villainous. And yes, there's people with a religious spirit. Like, look at the biblical days with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They literally ordered for Jesus's crucifixion. Literally, they paid Judas to find out where Jesus was, to murder him. They had a murderer released amongst a crowd of people, Barabbas, had the people screaming for Barabbas to be released to kill an innocent man who was raising people from the dead. Make it make sense. So yes, there is the presence of a religious spirit that is against God and his teachings of love and goodness. That doesn't mean you're gonna vilify the church though, because at the end of the day, that's God's place, and many blessings come from a church. There's people who would commit a crime running from a killer. They run into a church because they look for safety. And I understand that people have been murdered in churches, but people ultimately kind of somehow grasp the concept that God saves. You know, it doesn't matter who they are, believers and unbelievers. At some point, they come to realize that God saves. So you can't vilify it. Don't vilify the church, right? Anyways, then you have the dolly them, which is just females were there. So like how when Barbie came out, we had Barbie and Ken. Do we have that? You know, like I didn't really, that just had a gap. That just was incomplete. But anyways, I guess that's ultimately what I wanted to say for the 61st. Love that they had all those different performances. Jamaica is a very diverse melting pot of cultures because of our history. So, you know, we had dancehall, reggae, soca, and it was amazing. They brought out the gospel grace thrillers. Like, I love the grace thrillers. When I was a little girl, literally I used to hear them growing up, and to the point where I know to look them up and listen to their music. So there's that. Anyways, great event. You know, it looked like the light show, if those were drones that formed out all the shapes and designs and artwork with the different colors in the sky, lit. Like, that was gorgeous. Like, technology is just amazing. I'm a fan. Anyways, let's go to the 61st, shall we? Because we in 2023, honey, we're not in the past. The past is dead, and we gotta consecrate ourselves. Anyways, so now the 60th was the Diamond Grand Gala, the Diamond Ball. So the 61st, you know, wasn't as extravagant. Oh, you know what was really cool from the 60th? I don't want to forget. Do this thing where they showed how they build a house quick, child. You know, they build the bridge, and, you know, they even disassembled and reassembled the vehicle. And it was really cool. They did a search and rescue kind of, what you call that? Skit. And they had a helicopter come in. They even had trained people come drop down with parasails, and one bag of Jamaica depend some things. Like, we out here, you understand? It was lit. So I don't want to really forget that. But let's go to the 61st. So I did mention that we are a melting pot. So just a brief history. If you're not familiar with the slave trade, it doesn't even start there. It starts from our native people, like the Amerindians. So yeah, the Amerindians. So we had two groups of people mainly. You had the Tainos and the Arawaks. Okay. Oh, you had the Caribs. So the Tainos are the Arawaks. They're the same pretty much. And then you had the Caribs. They were against each other. Like, the Caribs were known to be very vicious people, where the Tainos were known to be very docile or friendly. Now, if I'm not mistaken, all of them were Arawaks, and then you had the so I have to go brush up. Anyways, Christopher Columbus came, right? So those people were there hunting, foraging. You know, they had their animal husbandry going on, poison dart frog, like all that, the poison arrow frog, all sorts of history and stuff was on Jamaican soil from before we were colonized. However, Christopher Columbus came on the Santa Maria and the other ship them and took over. Then the British came ultimately, like after the Spaniards were running Jamaica, you know, they got more slaves and they made slaves of the people. They killed off the Arawaks, the native peoples. And Father Lord, please filter my words. I'm not telling people wrong history and foolishness. Fact check me. I wasn't there. This is what I learned from. So the Europeans, like the British came now, overruled the Spaniards, and then they started the slave trade. So they went to Africa, Cape Town, and bought slaves from the people, brought them back. And it's called the triangular trade system because it's Africa to the Caribbean, back to Europe, right? So they took the slaves from Africa, brought them to Jamaica, and then Jamaica had great resources such as sugarcane. And anyways, I won't talk about all the resources that we have, but the stuff that we have, they mined them, harvest them, and took them back to Europe. Now, part of the reason why they went for slaves in the first place is because those people themselves could not work in the sun. Like, their skin, they couldn't, you know, the Africans were out there in the fields doing their thing. And that's not really an excuse, right? But that was part of the history I was taught, so I'm just mentioning it. Yeah. So we experienced the trade system and slavery, but we have national heroes for a reason. You know, we have Marcus Garvey. I actually went to Harlem to Marcus Garvey Park. You know, I saw a drummer's circle. His grandson is running for some kind of campaign or something, you know, good for him. I don't really know too much about that. I just saw his poster. But, you know, he is one of our national heroes. And we have others. There's Nanny of the Maroons, who actually escaped the plantations, ran to the hills with slaves, you know, and to this day they have their government established, you know, in Maroon Town. So our history is beautiful. Our culture is very rich, you understand? And it gets richer because when slavery was abolished, due to all the hard work from national heroes like Paul Bogle, even Samuel Sharp, you understand? Hey, we ended up getting indentured laborers to come to the country. Now, those were people who basically heard of job opportunities in the islands because, you know, the plantation owners were ordered to basically free the people, free the slaves, give them land, give them some kind of something so they could be free, right? So they could be independent. However, the country still wasn't independent, and we had Chinese Indians make that observation and come to the country and establish themselves there. You know, we have European, Spanish, Asian, we have a melting pot of cultures on our island. And so when let's go back to Grand Gala. So we saw some performances that displayed those different cultures. It's a very prominent dance company in Jamaica. You know, they do a lot of dances that are focused on our African history. You know, like when you see them doing the dances, it's not just like they have meaning, okay? And then they did bring out some Indian culture onto the stage with, you know, women dressed in saris and their painting, their jewelry embezzlement. You know, the Indian them can dress up and look good, girl. Good. So an observation I made was their hands were painted red. And, you know, the Indians, they dance a lot with their hands. They're not the only culture that does that, but I'm not too familiar with what that symbolizes, but I do know that the Indian culture worships multiple deities. Like Hinduism is their main religion. However, Hinduism embodies multiple gods. All right, you have Shiva, Vishnu, one baga, right? I think there's probably about 2 or 3 gods that they have, that they worship, and that in itself is idolatrous and blasphemous. So no offense to the Indian culture, it is beautiful. I've never even been to India, so I'm not trying to talk on y'all. I just know we have one God to serve, and that's pretty much it. You know what I mean? When Moses rescued the Israelites and they made gods for themselves, God was gonna smite them. He was literally gonna wipe them all out before Moses even came back with his commandments. So there's that. Now we're left amongst the nations to test each other. And so Jamaica, just be careful. Now they mentioned the Chinese, however I didn't see them bring out anything Asian. Like I didn't see any. Now I know Chinese people have Buddha, and that's a whole lot of ball game. I'm not going over there. I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna really bring out the cultures and do your research on them. You understand? Because at the end of the day, oh, these earphones keep sliding out. At the end of the day, these people established their stuff before they came to Jamaica. As it is, we had Tainos and Caribs running the island before they were wiped out with people who established other things, and right now we're no longer an island serving the Queen. The Queen isn't even here anymore. God rest her soul. She made a lot of questionable decisions while she was in power, and she had a lot of time to change her ways and her mind, and she didn't, right? And I'm not trying to get into that, because as much as I got into the Royal Veterinary College, Upper Europe, Camden, London, I didn't go. I've never been to England, so me I gotta just keep on my mouth. You understand? Now, I guess I'ma just leave that alone. But I did feel like I should mention the hands, because things like that are symbolic. All right, so another thing I'ma mention, I'ma just kind of glaze over it though, because I'm not it's just an instinct that I personally have. Brought out a singer. This is after the character that I told you with the Dolly Dem. They brought out a singer, beautiful girl. Her hair was beautiful, her fit was beautiful, to sing, her voice was beautiful. None of that is what I'm concerned about. She had a man on stage with her, and he had 2 umbrellas, Sosa umbrella, but they had the Jamaican patterns on it. However, it was in spiral, swirly, tie-dye kind of design, and he kept spinning the umbrellas, spinning them. It's giving hypnotism vibes. It's giving hypnotist. And when the girl came out onto stage, the first thing she did was have the people repeat what she's saying. Like, so she says, when I say Jamaica, you say one love, or something like that. And so the people repeated it. And with, nothing is wrong with people singing your songs back at you and having people, Simon Says it's a whole game people play. It's not about that, but the whole picture, especially with that character, with the whole warped portal, and we know dark arts are in our island. If you don't know, now you know. There's dark arts down there, and people practice it and they try to hide it, and God sees everything, and what's in the dark will always come to light. The Bible also says the eyes are the lamp of the body, and you want your light to shine bright. So if you keep taking in darkness, ultimately your inside and your heart will become corrupt with darkness, and that darkness manifests in the form of fear, anger, envy, jealousy, hatred, things that are just not of God, pride, one baga. Anyways, me nah come here for preach. Me just watch me little country celebration and I'm glad for them. However, red flags, stuff that just kind of stood out to me. Now let's go back to, well, so there's a popular song song that's basically saying, from you never go obey a man from your barn. Thank you, Jesus. And then he would say, then the next thing him say, like, from you know you never wear a gathering from your barn. So, you know what I mean? And people are singing it and whatever. And let's face it, there's people who would know well they've been to the Obia man and they're singing it loud, right? So it's great and all that he's rebuking it in a song. However, it's sowing discord amongst the people. It's causing people to want to hide away and for the harm of visiting a Obia man. The consequences and the things in the background that are attached to them when they go to these beings. Ultimately, hell could be the place you end up if you're not careful. And why is because it's a sin against God. I'm gonna leave it there. All right, the next thing, because as I said, some people really don't know. They don't know. And I'm not talking anointing oil. I'm talking oil like potion shit to tamper with a person's well-being. You know what I mean? Like, people are so corrupt in all these different kind of ways that they don't even know. So for example, there's this TV show where it's literally a panel of people who listen to people's ideas of pranks, and depending on how good your prank is, they'll take it on. Like, first of all, you shouldn't be encouraging people to trick people they call their friends, because a lot of the time it's their own friends that they're pranking. This man came up there, bless his heart, he was very sweet, to prank his husband that he had a wife and a child and the wife is expecting. Now, I'm not here to tell anybody how to live their life, but that's something that somebody else came and he had a friend. They work in the same place. Apparently she has 2 jobs, but she's the manager at the place they both work at, and he's trying to prank her in a job. Like, he designed or came up with an idea to freak her out with a customer from hell, a client from hell, tampering with her job, right? Because let's face it, if the lady don't know she's being pranked, literally it's a TV show pranking us, so there's a whole crew of people and this is going nationwide, so people are gonna be seeing this. Your life, you get up ready to go to work, you got a job call, but the whole time it's an orchestrated prank to make you ultimately lose your cool or make you flip out, or just people trying to draw you out. Like, that's not a friend. Do you understand? And if you think you're trying to, you know, you think the person needs to ease up a little bit, you think they need to, whatever you think, you're wrong. You're just wrong. You're not a good friend. You're not a good person. And let me not say that. You're not a good friend. And people should, anyways. So I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna leave that where it is. And Lord God Almighty, the one God that we serve, or we should be serving, please filter my words. I'm gonna put this one in the form of a question to my Jamaican people, because why are we giving the key to the city to an individual who is not from the country? Now, I don't know anything about the city and no, not that I don't know literally the city that the key was. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the runnings of a city. I am not familiar with how the mayor should run it, or the governor, the councillor, you know, the prime minister even. I don't know his job description. I'm just saying, what are the requirements or what are the qualifications that you look for in a person that deems them qualified to get the key to the city? Now, obviously, it's not a door to literal the city. However, that's a very big honor that I'm sure comes with certain privileges and tasks, or I don't know. I'm just saying that just kind of was, and then the person it was given to, no disrespect, if you know, people tithe and you know they donate and they give back, they do community service. There's a whole bunch of things that a person can do to help a nation. However, yeah, so that was just my question, and I'm gonna leave that alone from there. The last thing I think I want to mention is Jamaicans are very talented people. You know, we can sing, we can dance, we can act, we can produce artwork with our hands, you know, it's or brains work. So we've invented things, you know. We are, and other countries have people like that. I'm just giving my country, Jamaica, or props, because we're in a time of celebration and I'm a Jamaican, and I'm just so, you know, we have a bunch of artists out there that come up with songs and come up with, you know, witty lyrics that don't always depict their life story. So ultimately, sometimes they'll sing about things that they've never done, right? And people always want to blame the artists for the crime in the country, because Jamaicans, like, one thing we sing is gunman tune, we sing badman tune, you know, dancehall and reggae encompasses, honestly, a lot of the trauma that we've experienced. We come from us being a slave country. We're a slave nation, we're an oppressed nation. So people are gonna sing about their oppression. Some people are literally prophetic, but because they're not in tune with God, they're releasing their talents inappropriately, in a way, you understand, or with a message that kind of could misguide people or cause people to stumble. But me as a girl, me listen to a bag of gun tune, and me never bleach with no M16 from my band. I couldn't look at a lineup of rifles or guns and tell you which one is the M16. Song come on, when the beat drop, I could sing it. You know what I mean? Am I looking to be like, a lot of that stuff I've renounced, you know, a lot of it I've kind of curbed. However, the bottom line is, don't try to blame people when individuals will be judged on Judgment Day before God. Do you understand? Because God is the one who gave these people their irrevocable gifts, why they have the talent to do them dub, them poetry, being at the dance hall, upon the mixing board. So, in the same way, the politicians friend up some of these artists because the artists kind of are the voice of the people. You understand? So if you're on good, they must think that if you're on good terms with them, then you can continue to pacify the people. So what I'm getting at is they brought out some artists, and you know why me a little bit surprised is because when me did I go school, the sister them, and mind you, they were nuns, but even Catholics aren't perfect. We spoke about the religious spirit. You understand? Individuals to be judged. Regardless, I went to a strict school that even though they allowed artists to come, if they saw us acting out of hand, which one time the girls acted up, and we literally had a whole day where we had to recollect. And I'm not talking about when we went up to the convent with the nuns. I'm talking about in the classroom, we had to sit down, quiet, no tea. We didn't even get to learn, Daddy. So even the nerd them did get punished that day there. You understand? To think about what we did. You know, the head girl addressed the whole school and told us basically we were being a bag of skigged. We were just being skettle and butu. If you don't know what that means, it means what it sounds like. Woo! So anyways, like never see come see, like backwards, like you just wild. They wouldn't allow us to have those artists anymore, or we wouldn't, you know, if sister got a phone call, because she had her people on the street, child. So if sister gets a phone call, say, or just a passerby saw us in our uniform, because some of the girls had to take the bus, public transportation, so they'll be downtown half a tree or something in their uniform, and or out of their uniform, but as long as you were recognized and you did something out of pocket and sister got a phone call, Monday morning you're getting called to the office. Or if it was on a school night, the next day or whenever she get the call, promptly you're gonna be called. And you're gonna get an order mark or a demerit or detention or suspension or expulsion from school. So ultimately, train a child up in the way they should go, and our school was on that type of time for the most part, right? They encompass discipline. My school were referred to as phenomenal women. So we were expected to behave accordingly. Now, Jamaica as a country, mind you, we were colonized by the Queen, so we speak standard English. Sometimes when Jamaicans go abroad and we speak, people think we're from England because we're speaking too proper. And even Jamaicans themselves try to oppress other Jamaicans and oppress our dialect, which is patois, which is not broken English. It is a form of all the different languages we were taught when we were enslaved. We probably have, we more than likely have languages from the Arawaks in our dialect patois today. We have French in it, Spanish in it, you understand? So it's not broken English, it's its own language subset. It's a dialect. Okay, like how you have French Creole, and that's a whole, I don't speak French, so I'm gonna leave that alone. And I'm not from those countries that speak those Creole languages. I'm just saying. People would try to make you feel like you're uneducated because you speak patois, even in our own country. So what I mean is that Jamaica has a standard. And at the Grand Gala, I brought out artists talking about dirty money. And it's not, I'm sure it's not dirty because it dropping out the mud. Dirty because the means by which it was attained. Scamming. And scamming, literally robbing people blind. Making phone calls and telling the people them win the lotto and them need to send them address or whatever. And then like foolishness. Don't teach the children that, because entourage or whatever. Much respect to them. I was up dancing and stuff too, but you're mingling with the children, not inappropriately. I mean, you're greeting them because they look up to you. When Christopher Dudas Coke, huge gang man, Don man, who was indicted, God rest his soul, right, for criminal charges, his community protected him to some degree because of what he did for them. So people can appreciate you when you respect them and when you do good by them. That's what God teaches us, to love our neighbors as ourselves. You understand? So when you show people love, they'll give you back love. However, you have to be cautious of the message you're giving. So there's plenty of other artists them could have bring out, or bring them out then, but screen them, vet them. What you gonna sing when you go out there? When rehearsals going on, who is watching the rehearsal? Are you listening to the lyrics they're singing? And I mean, you can't, Jamaicans, we be saying, we're very witty. So sometimes the things that we say, sometimes them just say it because it rhyme, or it's funny, or it just makes sense in the moment to them. It's not always what they've lived. However, there's a time and a place for everything. Look it up in Ecclesiastes. Not for nothing. Like, if you don't want to look, that's on you. So, those who have ears will hear, not true. So, you know, I won't annodate an hour to my day by worrying. So I'm not worrying, and I wasn't worried while I was watching the show. I was up singing, dancing. They are spin them gun and their rifle. You understand? You know, you hope was the safety was on. Was the safety on? Do you remember that actor that shot the person on the set? Multiple times that's happened by accident or by sabotage. So I'm just saying, if you're gonna organize something, or if you're gonna collaborate, and you're doing it in a way that you're giving a message to people, or portraying a message to people, screen the message, vet the message. Okay, no harm, no foul. All right, boo. Oh, you know, United States coming through with these wigs. Like, this is out of China, sis. So we got a melting pot all right here. I don't know why me make out. You understand? I heard my last name has roots out of Irish roots. I don't know. You know, Jamaican people been doing ancestry tests lately. Me not really cater for all of that. I'm just proud to be a Jamaican, and I'm proud of my journey. So I'm in the States now. I'm proud of how far I've come and being here, and wherever I end up next, I pray to God to be proud of that as well. As it is, when the Israelites were put in a land that they didn't even know for 400 years, God rescued them, and before they got to the promised land that he created for them, that they never heard of, knew about before. They've heard about it from the prophecies and what he told Abraham, but they didn't see it, they never know. So, you know, ultimately they just walked by that. Anyways, they were brought to the wilderness for what, 40 years? So sometimes you never know where you're gonna end up. Just be proud of your journey, be proud of where you're coming from, be proud of, you know, where you hope to be going, as long as it's you know, a path of righteousness, in God's way. I'm really not trying to sound like a gotti, but at the end of the day, we can't leave him out of certain things, and everything is rooted, and inspiration isn't new either. So yeah. All right, I think I'm done here. I love you guys. You know, as I said, I didn't come here to insult anyone. I am very pleased of our culture and the many cultures that have contributed to our culture, if you catch my drift. And so I want to say God bless you all. You know, please keep God first in everything. Seek him and all things will come to you. Love always, and hopefully we'll speak again soon. All right, bye.